Hey everyone, this is John with Boardroom Gaming. We're here today taking a look at Raiders of the North Sea. It's a resource management worker placement game for 2 to 4 players. Plays in about 60 minutes. We're going to go through the setup, we'll go through the gameplay, and we'll do a quick recap at the end. So let's head on over to the table and we'll get started. Alright, so just like every other video, we're going to go through the setup, and I'll do this step by step through the instructions so you can kind of see how the entire setup process goes. So the first step is to place the board in the middle of the table. You're then going to shuffle your townsfolk deck. So that's these cards right here. Give them a good shuffle. Place them on the table next to the board, leaving space for a discard pile. After that, you're going to shuffle your offering tiles. So you can see I've already got 3 of them laid on the board, but you're going to give these a good shuffle. Place your 3 on the board. 1, 2, 3, and there's a little spot for them to go right down here. Once you do that, you're going to get your Valkyrie, gold, iron, and livestock pieces, and you're going to place them in the black bag. You're going to shake them all up, and then as you can see on the board here, you're just going to lay them out based on the number in this little green shape here. That's going to tell you how many of each resource goes in each tile, and it's completely random. There's no specific place for each one to go, so you're just going to follow the numbers. So up in the fortresses there, we've got 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, and then it'll keep changing as you go through the monasteries, the outposts, and the harbors. There will be, I don't know, it looks like maybe 2, 4, maybe about 8 or 9 pieces left. Those go into your general market area. And then once you're done with the bag, you can put it away. After that, you will place all of the gray and white workers pretty much in the similar manner. Each location has called out what color worker goes there. White, gray down here. You're going to place all the white and gray workers. Once you've done that, you'll place the black workers that there are. There's only 3 that you put on the board to start with, and they go in any space that has this blue rectangle icon on it, the blue card icon. And then each player is going to get one of their own. Any that you don't use are going to go back in the box. Going to put all the silver tokens out. These awesome coins are going to go out. The provision tokens go out in a pile. Each player starts with 2 silver, 1, 2, and the 1 worker that they get. And they get their boat card for the player number. And you want to make sure that 50 side is face down. That's used as you score points later on in the game. You're going to place the score marker, 1 score marker of each color in each of the scoring areas. So you've got your armor section here, your Valkyrie section, and then your regular points up here. Whoop. Once you place those are all set. Then next up, you're going to have 5 cards get dealt to each player. So I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. That's my starting hand. Each player will get 5 cards. And then to determine the first player, you just roll the 2 dice here to see who the highest number will go first. So there's some terminology that I want to go over really quick. There's the main supply. That's this area over here. Your coins, your provision, all your other resources here. This is going to be referred to as your main supply. For this game, if you're going to take an action that has you gathering a resource, it has to be in this main supply. If it's not here, you can't claim it. There's the offering tile stack. So these are going to be your additional points as you make your offerings to the gods, and we'll talk more about that later on. Player supplies are the items that you own, the resources you own. And at the end of your turn, you can't have more than 8 of each resource. So 8 silver, 8 provisions, and 8 cards. You can't have more than 8 of those at the end of your turn. You can collect more of them during your turn, but by the end, if you have more than 8, you have to discard down to 8. The Valkyrie, coal, cattle, and gold aren't part of that. Those you can collect as many as you want to. It's just cards, coins, and provisions. And then there's the townsfolk deck. So that's what this deck of cards here is. That's where all of your raiders are going to come from. So that's the setup. I do want to talk a little bit more about the iconography because there's so much of it on the board, on these offering tiles, on the cards you're going to be playing, and you really need to kind of familiarize yourself with what each one is so that you know how you're going to play your turns and how to kind of plan going forward. So we'll start with victory points. You can see that symbol over here. That's what this whole point tracker is going around the side, these yellow flags. You can see them here on the offering tiles. You can see them over here on the armor track. You can see them on the Valkyrie track. And you can see them at the rating locations. And what you need to understand about that is the number that's in that flag is how many points you're going to get at the end of the game. Or in the case of the rating outpost, you'll get those as you raid each location. The armor track, the Valkyrie track, and the offering tiles you're going to score at the end of the game. Next up is going to be the red flag, which represents military strength. And you can see that here at the outpost, the monastery, and the fortress. You can see it here if you go to visit the armory, and it's actually on the armory track. So that number represents what your military strength is. The armory track is like a permanent buff to your military strength. When you're going to the raiding locations like the outposts, the monasteries, or the fortress, that's going to let you know how much military strength you need in order to achieve the points that it's offering. So at the outpost, if you have 8 military strength, you'll be able to receive 2 points. And if you have 14 military strength, you'll be able to get 4 points. And that works the same way at the fortress. You just have 3 different options. So you would raid that location. If you met that criteria, you would move your point marker up, and that's how you would score those points. You'll also see military strength on the cards you have in your hand for each of your Vikings that you're going to be taking on your crew. That again just adds to your military strength, but they need to be part of your crew when you're raiding in order to use their military strength. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. The next few symbols are more about some of the resources that you'll get. So we've got the Valkyrie tokens, we've got gold, you've got iron, and you've got livestock. And those you'll see pictured just sporadically throughout the board. So you'll see the gold icon down here in the mill. You'll see it up here in the monastery. You'll see them down here on the offering tiles, letting you know what it is you would need to essentially spend to gain these tiles. Excuse me. Next up, we have this red shield looking symbol, and that just tells you how many dice you're going to roll during each raid. So you can see here at the outpost, you'll get 1 dice to roll, and as you move farther up, so the monastery will give you 2 dice to roll, the fortress gives you 2. And again, those numbers are going to add up. So that's what you're going to be adding towards your military strength. There's a blue rectangular shape. That's to let you know that this is referring to cards that are in your hand. There's a black rectangular shape. That's to let you know it's referring to cards that are part of your crew, which are the ones that you're playing face down in front of you. Then you'll see another red squarish looking shape. That's just to reference the offering tiles. That's these sections down here. So if you look down here at the longhouse, it's got that symbol. That's to let you know that you would go here in order to use or to try to claim the offering tiles. I think we've talked about just about everything else. When you're looking at your cards, you'll see the little coin symbol down here. That's to let you know what you need to spend to hire. And then you'll see 2 actions down at the bottom. So the one on the left will let you know that this is the action you take when they're part of your crew. The one with the blue arrow is the action you take if you go to the town hall and follow that action step. I think that covers pretty much all of the icons that you'll see. If any additional ones come up, I'll discuss them then. So let's go ahead and get into how your turn is going to work, and we'll go from there. So I think the best way to do this is going to be to talk through each location in the bottom half. I'll show a couple of examples of how the rating works, and then we'll go and do our recap after that. So you can see there's 3 locations that are already blocked. If there's a worker there, you can't go to that location. So the gatehouse, the treasury, and the town hall are all blocked at the beginning of the game, but the gatehouse, if you were to be placing or taking your worker from there, lets you draw 2 cards from the deck. If you were to go to the treasury, this allows you to discard a card from your hand to gain 2 coins, or you can discard 2 cards from your hand to gain a gold if there's gold in the supply. You have to remember, if it's not in the supply, you can't claim that resource. The town hall will let you play that town hall action that you have on the cards in your hand. So you can see what that blue arrow is. On the right side, each card, well, most of the cards have that symbol on them. and it'll just kind of give you instructions on what you would do, and then you would discard that card. Going to the barracks here allows you to hire a card from your hand. So as we said before, each card has a cost. There's little coins here. So for example, the Avenger here costs 3, the Brawler costs 2, the Warlord on the end here costs 4. So you would just pay that amount to the bank, and then this, whichever card you're paying for, so if I were to buy the Brawler, he would go over here or wherever you're setting your crew, and that's where he would stay as you played through the game. You can have a maximum of 5 crew, so you can't have more than 5. You can eliminate a crew member to make room for another one, but you cannot go past 5 crew at any point in the game. The mill allows you to gain provisions, and you can see there you have a few different options here. So if you place a black worker there, you're going to get 1 provision. The gray worker is going to give you 2 provisions, and the white worker is going to give you 2 provisions or 1 gold, again keeping in mind that those resources are available. When we go down here to the armory, for this one you need to have either a white or a gray worker. You can't place one of your starting workers there, so that means in order to even go to the armory you have to be doing some raiding first. So this just lets you discard 1 iron, in order to move your armor track up 2 spaces. Or you can discard 2 coins to move it up 1 space. Over here, the silversmith, it's similar to the mill. The black worker go in there, get you 3 coins. The gray or white worker go in there, get you 2 coins. And then the longhouse, much like the armory, has to have a gray or a white worker, so you'll have to have done some raiding first. And this lets you turn 1 cattle into 2 provisions, or you can turn in all the resources required for one of the offering tiles down here. And you would just pay that right to the bank. So if you're going for this tile right here, you would need to be able to pay the 2 cattle, the 2 gold. You would claim this tile, and then you would place a new one in its place at the end of your turn. And anything that you're paying just goes over to the bank as part of the market. So I think for starting my turn, in order to even do any raiding, you need to be able to meet these requirements. So for this location, you need to have 2 provisions and 2 crew members. This one requires 1 provision and 3 crew members. And for this harbor, you need 3 provisions and 2 crew members. And you kind of have to weigh it based off of what's in those locations and what your strategy is in terms of gaining points. So you can see our Valkyrie tokens here, these black ones, are spread pretty much across the whole board. And if you get one of those after raiding, you don't get to hold on to it. Instead, you have to discard one of your crew members, and it'll allow you to move the point marker up on your Valkyrie score chart. So if you're not ready to start getting rid of any of your crew members, you really want to try to avoid the ones that have multiple Valkyrie markers on it. And if there are multiple Valkyrie markers on it and you can't discard enough crew members for each token on there, you would still discard the Valkyrie token, but you wouldn't get the full two movement points on the Valkyrie board. So I think my first one is going to be trying to go to the harbor over here, because raiding there will get me a chance to possibly get the 2 livestock here, which is part of an offering tile, and then I'll get these other resources here, which I can use at the armory to move that track up some. And you got to keep in mind that this is like permanent combat, permanent addition to your combat. So in order to do that, I need to have 2 provisions and 2 crew members. So I think my first spot is going to be going to the barracks, and I can spend 2 gold right here, 1, 2, and I'll hire the merchant. So his action as a crew member lets me gain 1 additional victory point for each pair of livestock you score, and that refers to the end of the game. So this probably isn't a great one to have early on. That's when you want to have towards the end, or you can have it early on knowing that you're going to try to keep him the whole game, and then you're just going to try to get as much livestock as you can. So placing went to the barracks. I think my take action, I'm just going to go to the town hall, or not the town hall, excuse me, the gatehouse, and I'm going to draw 2 cards. 1, 2, and that would end my turn. And then the next player would go and choose their location to place on. They would pick one to take from, and then it'll be back to my turn. And then since I do need the 2 provisions, I'm going to go to the mill, which will give me 1 provision. And then I think I will take the treasury icon and I'll discard a card to gain 2 coins. And I'm going to get rid of the cartographer. His actions don't necessarily help me right now. That would probably be another one to have that would be good for the late game. So I'll discard him. I'll get my 2 coins. And then the next player would take their turn. And on my second turn, again, you'll place and then you'll take. So I think my second turn, I'll go to the silversmith to get 3 coins, which is going to help me be able to hire, because my second action is going to be going to the barracks. So I'm going to take the worker from the barracks, and then I think I will hire a warlord, and he costs 4 coins. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I've got my 2 crew members here, and I still need 1 more provision. So on my next turn, I think my place would be to go, I'll just go to the gatehouse, because it's always nice to have cards. Worst case is you can discard them at the treasury. So I'll get 1, 2, which still keeps me under the 8 card limit. And then my take is going to be going to the mill, where I'll be able to get the 1 provision. And then the next player would go, and then it'd be back to me. And like I said before, I wanted to do the raiding up here in the harbor. So I would place my worker in the harbor. I would pay the 2 provisions. You get to keep your crew members. Neither of these gives me a bonus to raiding harbors. You will find that some of the crew members give you different bonuses based on when you're raiding. So had I really read what these cards do, I could have gotten the warmonger here, who lets me gain 1 victory point when raiding a harbor. But I didn't. And that's okay, because this is just for you to understand how the turns will work. So yeah, I paid my 2 provisions. I then get to take the resources that are there. So that's going to be these 2 livestock and these guys here. And then I would take the worker, and that would end my turn. So taking the workers that are assigned to these raiding areas takes the place of your take action. So you won't get to do anything else on this turn. And that's essentially how this game. Oh, and I'll get my 1 point for raiding the harbor. So there's no combat here, so I don't have any options as far as how many points I get. I just get 1 point for every harbor that you end up raiding. So I got some resources. I have a gray worker now, which kind of opens up my options going forward. So I can go to the armory and start bumping up my armor track. Or if I had something met over here, I can go to the longhouse. I would discard these resources into the market area, and then I would claim the tile, and then I would place a new one in its place at the end of my turn. Or if I were to meet any of the objectives up here, I could place this gray worker into one of these farther in areas for raiding, as like the outpost or the monastery, and I can keep working my way up that way. And that would work exactly the same as the harbor. The only difference is you now have to take into account the combat numbers. So as you go farther in, you really want to be able to build up your crew to meet some of these numbers so that you can get the additional points. Keeping in mind, you'll also have the bonus of rolling the dice. So just as an example, if I were to go to this outpost, I'd place my gray worker here. I would roll 1 die, which gives me 3. So as long as my crew members added up to 5 or more, I would be able to get the 2 points, and I would just add that. Or if my crew members added up to 11 or more, so you'd probably need a pretty full boat to get that. If they add up to 11 or more and I met the 14, I'd be able to get 4 points on the track, and then I would claim the resources and the worker in the same way. And the game will keep going on that way until either you run out of offering tiles, there's no Valkyrie tokens on the board, or there's only 1 fortress left with a spot to raid. At that point, you would end the game. Each player would then go through scoring, so you would look at your score track wherever it ended up. You would add in any crew members that might give you bonus points at the end. So, for example, the Warlord gives me 2 victory points. You'd add any of those to your point total. You would add in wherever you are on the armor track to your point total, or the armor track's down here, excuse me, the armor track to your point total, wherever you are on the Valkyrie to your point total. If at any time you get above 50, you just flip over your player token, which shows you 50, and then you would start back over at 0 and start working your way back around again. And then you would also add in any offering tiles that you scored during the game to get your final score. And then the player with the highest score at the end of the game wins. So that's Raiders of the North Sea. As you can see, this isn't too complicated of a game to learn and teach. The most involved part, I think, is probably going to be the setup, which still isn't all that involved. There's a lot of pieces to place, but the board calls out where all those pieces go really well, so it still does. It's minimal time getting this game set up and ready to go. The components themselves are really great. They really lend themselves to the Viking theme, and the whole place a worker, take a worker mechanic, I think, is my new favorite way to play a worker placement, resource management kind of game. It doesn't seem involved, but you really have to think through, okay, well, here's what my goals are right now for points, and then later on down the game, it's going to shift where you really need to know, okay, I got to change my strategy to do this now to get points. We're probably going to be playing this one a lot. Like I said, I think it's going to be our new favorite worker placement, resource management game. And the theming, I think, and components really help with that. The heavy metal coins, the art on the cards, all that really makes this a well-rounded game. There is quite a bit of extra content for this one that we're going to look into. I'm not sure which one first, or if we're just going to jump in and buy them all. Maybe you can help by letting us know in the comments below what you would recommend or suggest. Assuming, of course, you played the game and the expansions. If there's one expansion that you enjoy more than the others, or if you feel like this game benefits from having all of them, let me know in the comments below. Hopefully this video helps you understand better if this is the type of game that you would want to play or add to your collection. That's kind of the whole point of all this, is to give you an idea of what these games are, what they look like, how they play and feel, so that you can be better informed going forward. So hopefully we're meeting that goal. If not, let me know how I can improve that in the comments below. Again, my name's John with Boardroom Gaming, and until next time, happy gaming.